Ubaro, in lyn met die boer.
So ons gas saam met ons in die ateljee vanoggend Michelle Kuier, die groep bemarkingskommunikasie bestuurder by Ubaro. Michelle, goeiemôre en welkom.
Dankie Dopie, lekker om hier by julle te kuier.
So, wie is Ubaro en wat doen julle vir die min mense wat nog nie weet nie?
Jong Dopie, Ubaro is 'n Suid-Afrikaanse landboumaatskappy. Ons het 95 jaar ervaring en hoofsaaklik ondersteun ons die boere en landbougemeenskappe met hulle voer, hulle saad, besproeiingsstelsels, finansiële oplossings en ons het tot 'n internetdienste verskaffer. So 'n hele pakkie van dienste en produkte wat ons die boere mee ondersteun. Ons het 27 handelswinkels reg oor 5 provinsies en dan 'n sterk groeiende aanlyn winkel.
So, Ubaro se slagspreuk is in lyn met die boer. Wat beteken dit nou in praktyk?
Kyk, daar is vir my 'n baie sentimentele slogan. As ek moet sê in lyn met die boer, is dit regtig om die boer se wêreld te verstaan. Om regtig op sy plaas te wees, ons leer, ons luister, loop in sy voetspore en ons los ook fisies ons voete op sy plaas om regtig sy besigheid te verstaan. So ek wil amper al sê in lyn met die boer is vir my, sien Ubaro as jou vertrouensvernoot op jou plaas.
So as ons dink aan die rol wat Ubaro gaan speel in die toekoms van landbou en ons boere in Suid-Afrika, hoe lyk dit?
So kyk, landbou is 'n kernpilaar in ons ekonomie en veral in die voedselsekuriteit. So vir my gaan dit regtig met Ubaro dat ons vir ons boere en landbougemeenskappe blootstelling en ondersteuning gee tot nuwe tegnologie, beter insette en dan goeie finansiële ondersteuning vir hulle bied. Ek dink ons sien dit as ons verantwoordelikheid om regtig te bou aan die toekoms vir landbou en dat ons boere volhoubaar en mededingend kan hulle besigheid bedryf.
So ek weet julle as Ubaro is ook baie betrokke by die gemeenskappe. En waarom is dit vir julle so belangrik?
So ek sê altyd boer loop hand aan hand met mense en gemeenskappe. So dis vir ons regtig, ek wil amper sê 'n voorreg en 'n eer om betrokke te raak by projekte, veral as dit kom by investering in landbouopleiding, opkomende boere, jong mense wat 'n toekoms wil bou in die landbou. So ons raak graag betrokke by, ek wil amper sê om daai kennis te kultiveer in jong mense, om betrokke te raak by hulle opleiding. Want ek glo regtig dat as jy investeer en belê in daai opleiding en ontwikkeling, sal dit die landbou-ekosisteem versterk. Ons het juis na hande gevat saam met akademia, met hulle nuwe kampus wat hulle bou, waar ons ondersteuning bied tot hulle landboufakulteit en ook so hulle landbouskenkingsfonds. So ja, daai loop vir my uit en uit, hand aan hand.
So, Michelle, wat is die boodskap wat Ubaro vandag aan die boere en die breër publiek wil oorgee?
So vir my, boerdery en eintlik Ubaro, boerdery is meer as 'n besigheid, dit is 'n leefwyse. By Ubaro loop ons saam met die boer, ons ken sy besigheid, ons doen besigheid soos boere, soos met hart, durf en doelgerigtheid. En vir my wil ek amper al die gemeenskap aanmoedig om saam met ons te bou, saam met ons te werk en te bou aan 'n volhoubare landbougemeenskap. So ek sê altyd, almal van ons het 'n paar vellies in die kas. So uiteindelik het elkeen van ons 'n bietjie boer in hulle.
So jy het nou genoem van julle aanlyn portaal en as mense meer inligting soek oor Ubaro en wat beskikbaar is by julle, waartoe kan hulle gaan?
So hulle kan gaan na ons webwerf www.ubaro.co.za en dan op al die sosiale media kanale kan hulle net Ubaro gaan soek. Ons is op Facebook, ons is op Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, die ou X en YouTube. Julle sal vir ons daar kry.
Fantasties. Michelle, baie dankie vir jou tyd vandag. Dis Michelle Kuier, dis die groep bemarkingskommunikasie bestuurder by Ubaro oor hulle rol in landbou. Jy is ingeskakel op GROOTplaas. Saam met ons in die ateljee vanoggend is Prof Armanda Bastos. Sy is natuurlik van die Universiteit van Pretoria se Departement van Veeartsenykundige en Tropiese Siektes. Prof, welcome back and thank you for being here. So you have an expert lecture coming up on the 8th regarding the foot and mouth disease. What exactly will you be discussing during this lecture?
So the lecture will deal with foot and mouth disease in South Africa, give a bit of a historical overview and touch on diagnostics and the fact that we also used to be able to control this disease and really restrict it to the northeastern corner of the country where we have the buffalo maintenance hosts and how the entire situation has changed substantially. And how we're going to have to regain over a number of years our FMD-free status, initially with vaccination. It will also speak about, the fifth quarter research work that I spoke about previously when I was on your show, That has in fact been concluded, the first phase, and the results indicate that the slaughter regulations and the policy surrounding controlled slaughter of animals from FMD-infected premises should change. The science gives very clear indications that we don't need to worry about foot and mouth disease in bone marrow, in the major glands, or in offal. And I think this is a major win for the industry.
So why is foot and mouth disease still so feared despite low death rates?
So the thing is that the virus, and especially when it gets into cattle, is highly, highly infectious. So with a lot of diseases, you always have a threshold to establish infection. And with cattle, that threshold is very low levels of exposure to virus. If they just breathe in a couple of virus particles, they will become infected. So it's that highly infectious nature of the disease, and because of that, how easily it can spread from one animal to the other, that really is a huge concern. The other thing when it gets to high production systems is that it really does have a major impact, especially if you think about the dairy industry. Even though animals may recover, production levels of milk are low. It has a huge knock-on effect. And we also saw a lot of very high mortalities in young calves towards the end of the year, December, January, which is something we haven't really seen before. But we also have not had to deal with FMD on the scale that we're dealing with at the moment. So for high production systems, it has a major impact.
So as you mentioned earlier, it was always quite easily managed and contained up towards the north and closer to our borders. We know that transporting animals and protocols not being followed was one of the major reasons it spread to other provinces. But has this now, has some legislation been put in place to make sure that we get back to a state where we can control the spread of this virus?
So I think the legislation always was in place. I think it's really just adherence to legislation. We use three main sources or ways of controlling it historically, and that was separation of wildlife and susceptible cattle in Kruger. So the fencing was crucial. And we know when fences go down, that then becomes a bit of a risk for interspecies transmission. The other thing is vaccination of the cattle around the Kruger National Park. That has to happen regularly and with a good vaccine. And then the third leg is the biosecurity and the movement control. There are very strict regulations depending on whether you are or are not within that control area. So if any one of those three isn't maintained, then you have this potential for spillover, and then it can potentially also get out of the area where it has historically been restricted to.
Prof, we've been speaking to a few other guys on the show as well regarding buffaloes and foot and mouth disease when it comes to buffaloes. But what type of role does buffalo play for those who don't know when it comes to foot and mouth disease?
So buffalo are incredible maintenance hosts throughout sub-Saharan Africa, except the most southern distributional range like Addo Elephant National Park, and even historically Shishli and Falozi. It was only those two buffalo populations that were free of FMD. Every other buffalo population throughout sub-Saharan Africa is infected with the 3 SAT-type viruses, and they maintain those really efficiently. So by the time a buffalo, a young buffalo, those maternal antibodies have waned at 3 to 6 months, they will first become infected. And if you do the serology at about 1 year of age, virtually 90% of a buffalo herd will be infected with all 3 serotypes. They then maintain the virus for up to 5 or 6 years, an individual animal. So that virus is incredibly well adapted at surviving in buffalo, and it persists in buffalo. And the moment you have a maintenance host, and it's a wildlife maintenance host, the only way that you can really deal with that is through separation, physical separation from livestock, and then vaccination of your livestock. And thankfully for FMD, we do actually have vaccines that we know provide protection. They don't necessarily prevent infection, but they will prevent the clinical disease if it's a good vaccine.
So when we talk about something like a carrier state, what exactly is that and why is it a problem?
So carrier state is when the virus, following an initial infection in a naive animal, once the antibody response has kicked in and cleared most of the virus, as well as the clinical signs will then dissipate, in a proportion of animals, you will establish a persistent infection. And for foot and mouth disease, in buffalo as well as in cattle, it's in that nasopharyngeal area. So with buffalo and in the Kruger Park, one of the ways in which we monitor the strain diversity is by taking throat scrapings from buffalo, obviously immobilized buffalo, and then isolating the virus and typing the virus and matching it to our vaccine strains. Most buffaloes will establish a persistent infection in that area. And then in cattle, a proportion, depending on the strain, the infecting strain, will also establish an infection. That virus is present at very, very low levels within cattle as well as within buffalo. But essentially what it means is that you then have a source of infectious virus that can potentially be transmitted on.
So, Prof, where are we standing on the current outbreak? Are we managing it as we should, or is this still up for concern?
So I think it is still a concern, just the distribution of FMD in the country and the number of provinces it's in. I mean, the situation is actually unprecedented. But I do have to say that the fact that we've got vaccines coming in with longer lasting immunity because they are either single or double emulsion vaccines bodes very well. The rollout has also gone quite well for the most part, and we have a new batch of vaccine that will be arriving next week. So in terms of the vaccination and the rollout, I think we're getting on top of it, and we just need to keep that momentum going. It will take a few weeks before we start really seeing the impact of vaccination. But what we should already see, and we do have indications of that, is that the number of outbreaks should be becoming less and less, to a point where it's only a few sporadic outbreaks here and there. And once we get to that point, then we can start moving back and reclaiming areas of the country as being free from FMD, either with or without vaccination.
Now, control measures, why are control measures based on strains not really found in South Africa?
Okay, you'll need to rephrase that, based on strains not found?
Yeah, strains not found in South Africa. So are there different strains of foot and mouth disease? And do we have a specific strain that is contained in South Africa?
So in South Africa, we have the 3 serotypes, the set 1, 2, and 3, and most of the outbreaks historically have involved a type or a lineage that is very specific to South Africa. At the moment, what we're seeing is that in terms of the outbreaks, it's not just one strain, and that's the unfortunate thing. So the levels of outbreak strain diversity are higher than just one, and the fact that we have 2 different vaccines, I know that there's a lot of discussions about the vaccines, but it actually means that we have broader antigenic coverage, which, considering the situation that we're in, I think is a good thing.
Prof, so this expert lecture is the 8th of April?
Correct.
And that will be at the University of Pretoria?
Yes.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for your time. Dis Professor Armanda Bastos en sy het bietjie met ons kom gesels oor die stand van Bek-enklouseer in Suid-Afrika en waar ons is natuurlik in die hele proses om hierdie ding weer onder beheer te kry. Dis alwaarvoor ons tyd het vir GROOTplaas vir vandag. So Piet lekker saam met ons gekuier en dan sien ons mekaar weer môreoggend.